She left, thinking you'd crumble. She expected you to chase, to beg, to be the man she could always return to. But what she didn't anticipate was your transformation. Now, as she watches from afar, regret consumes her. But it's too late. You've evolved beyond her reach. In today's world, men face unprecedented challenges in relationships. The modern dating landscape is riddled with confusion, manipulation, and a lack of genuine connection. Many men find themselves lost, seeking validation from those who don't value them. But it's time to change the narrative. I'm introducing the Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men, a comprehensive guide designed to navigate the complexities of modern relationships with clarity and confidence. This isn't just another ebook. It's a transformative tool that empowers you to reclaim your worth and build meaningful connections. Without this blueprint, you're left vulnerable to repeated heartbreaks, confusion, and a cycle of unfulfilling relationships. But with it, you gain the insights and timeless principles to stand firm, understand your value, and never settle for less than you deserve. Comment Blueprint if this is something you're looking forward to and can't wait to get this ebook the very moment it drops. Number 1. She took you for granted. She didn't notice the first time you chose to bite your tongue instead of starting a fight, or the second time you rearranged your entire day just to be there for her when she felt off without even saying it, or how you stayed up late helping her through her anxious thoughts, even when your body ached from a long day. She missed the way you'd remember details she casually mentioned months ago, like how she liked her coffee or the way certain songs made her feel safe. And over time, each of those efforts blurred into expectations, where your patience became routine, your kindness became assumed, and your presence started to feel like something she was entitled to rather than something she was blessed with. And the truth is, it wasn't always obvious. Taking someone for granted never happens all at once. It's gradual, like how she stopped saying thank you when you picked her up, how she began texting during your conversations, how she rolled her eyes when you opened up, not because she hated you, but because she stopped seeing the magnitude of what you gave so freely. And it wasn't that you changed overnight either. It was the slow erosion of enthusiasm inside you as her attention drifted, as her appreciation dimmed, and the weight of being the emotional pillar without ever leaning started crushing you in ways she never even asked about. And as the months passed, the moments that once made you feel like a team started to feel like obligations. Date nights became errands, check-ins felt like audits, and your laughter turned quiet because the person who once brought joy now gave you more doubt than clarity. And still, you stayed, hoping she'd remember who you were before she decided it wasn't enough. And what hurt more than her words was how easily she believed you'd never leave. Like you were just another placeholder in her timeline, someone to lean on until someone more exciting came along. And maybe she never said it out loud, but you felt it in how she started comparing, in how her compliments got fewer while her criticisms got sharper, in how she praised strangers more than she appreciated the man who held her through storms. And you began to question your own worth. Not because you didn't have it, but because someone you gave everything to acted like it meant nothing. And if you're being honest, you lost a part of yourself trying to be enough for someone who couldn't even see you clearly. And in that loss, you became quieter, more careful, not just with her, but with yourself. You stopped dreaming as loud. You started editing your own emotions before speaking, trying to be smaller just to avoid another eye roll or sigh. And the craziest part is, she knew you were bending, breaking, burning out just to keep things from falling apart. And still she stood there, arms crossed, waiting for more, convinced that your loyalty meant you'd never reach your limit. And when you finally did, when you packed up your heart and walked out, not with drama, but with determination, that was the moment she finally realized what she'd done, because the man who once showed up no matter the time of day, no matter how hard things got, no matter how she acted, was now gone, and not in a way that could be undone with an apology or a flash of old memories, but in a way that said, "I gave you the rarest thing a man can give, consistency, presence, truth, and you discarded it like background noise. And now that it's gone, you finally realize it was the music holding everything together. And this isn't about vengeance, it's about value, because what she didn't know was that men like you don't beg when they're done. They rebuild, they rewire, they rise, not louder but deeper, and the world starts noticing the shift, not just in how you look, but in how you carry yourself, how you speak less and move sharper, how your standards get higher, not out of ego, but out of awareness, because the pain of being taken for granted taught you something school never did, that love without respect is erosion in disguise, and you remember the day it clicked. Maybe you were alone in your car, maybe you were sitting in the gym, or maybe it was in a quiet moment after scrolling through old photos, but something inside you whispered, "You've been giving to someone who sees your light but doesn't value the warmth." And from that day, you started changing. Not for her, not for revenge, but for your own peace, and you began investing in yourself, reading more, eating better, dressing with intention, cutting out distractions, surrounding yourself with people who don't just see you but honor you. And what happened next wasn't magic. It was momentum, because a man who reclaims himself becomes magnetic, and now she sees it, maybe not in person, but through the echoes, the way people talk about you now, the confidence in your stride, the joy you no longer apologize for, and suddenly she's curious again. But what she doesn't realize is that curiosity doesn't equal access, because you're not the same man who once tolerated disrespect in the name of love. You're a man who now recognizes that the heart isn't a hotel for temporary stays, and when someone can't see your worth when it's right in front of them, they don't deserve to watch your glow up from the front row. And when you finally accept that, your world opens. New women who speak your language, opportunities that align with your vision, clarity that once felt impossible, and what she's left with isn't hate or anger, it's regret. Not just for losing you, but for never truly seeing you to begin with. And no matter how many times she replays your last words, no matter how often she types out messages she never sends, the truth remains. She didn't lose a man, she lost a future, a family, a foundation, and by the time she understood, you were already gone. Number 2. When she realizes it's too late. She didn't expect you to disappear from her world so completely, not because she believed she still owned you, but because she genuinely believed that a man who gave that much would never find the strength to walk away and stay gone. She convinced herself that your value came from your presence in her orbit, your willingness to endure her indecision, your ability to hold space while she explored other options, tasted temporary validation, and fed an ego starving for attention disguised as independence. But she never paused to consider what it would mean for a man like you to finally redirect all that energy inward, to build instead of beg, to grow instead of grieve, to evolve without the need for announcement. And when she begins to notice your absence, not the kind that comes with blocking or anger, but the kind that's quiet, composed, and emotionally unbothered, it doesn't hit her immediately. It comes in slow, sharp waves, like when she tells a joke and no one laughs the way you did, or when she gets sick and no one checks in the way you used to, or when she has good news but feels the emptiness of not being able to share it with the one person who truly celebrated her. And that realization doesn't just visit her once, it haunts her over and over in the places she never expected, because it's not just about you being gone, it's about what your absence now symbolizes. It represents a door that's closed, not with malice, but with maturity, and nothing hits harder than watching someone you took for granted outgrow the need to be understood by you. She starts noticing the shift in your eyes when you bump into each other, the warmth replaced by resolve, the way your posture carries pride, not arrogance, how your laughter is lighter, your energy more focused, your style sharper, your body stronger, and your decisions no longer revolve around her. And whether she admits it or not, she feels it. She feels the weight of no longer being the center of your attention, and it cuts deeper than any argument you ever had, deeper than any goodbye, because this is a goodbye. She never got to control, one she never saw coming, and now she begins the mental reverse engineering of every moment, trying to figure out when the shift began, trying to calculate what she missed, looking through old photos, rereading your old texts, listening to voice notes she saved but never responded to, hoping to find a window back in. But there's nothing there anymore, because you've outgrown the need to convince her of your worth, and what she now wants isn't love. It's redemption, it's access, it's a reset button that no longer exists. She might post quotes about healing and timing. She might write captions about growth, but beneath it all is the unspoken truth. She wishes she saw what she had before it became a memory. And now her curiosity turns into strategy. She starts testing the waters, using likes, stories, chance encounters, mutual friends, pretending to ask about things she doesn't care about just to spark a conversation. And the hardest part for her isn't rejection. It's your indifference, not the kind that seeks revenge, but the kind that signals peace. Because now she sees that you don't need to win her back to feel whole, that you've already won by finding a version of yourself she never helped build. And that truth, though silent, is louder than any words you ever said during the relationship. And now she has to live with the fact that the man she left when he was still healing has become the man she wishes she met when she was ready. But he's no longer interested in rewinding the clock, because time has taught him that growth and regression cannot share the same space. And your path, though shaped by her departure, is now defined by your progress. She might even try one last plea, an emotional message, a memory she knows tugs at your heart, a compliment that sounds sincere. But underneath it all is her realization. She's no longer reaching for you. She's reaching for the version of you she thought would always be there. But that man died the day you realized love is not measured by how long you stay, but by how clearly you see who's worth staying for. And she wasn't, not because she's evil, but because she couldn't meet you at the level you were willing to build from. And when she realizes that you've outgrown not just the relationship, but the mindset that kept you attached to it, she understands for the first time that healing isn't linear, it's exponential, and you've multiplied your strength, your focus, your joy in ways she can't calculate. And that makes her feel what she never thought she would. Small, not because you made her feel that way, but because your growth illuminated the ways in which she failed to grow when she had the chance. And as you continue to rise, she begins to see that the love she once devalued is now the blueprint for everything she seeks but cannot find. Because that love came from a man who gave without condition, who stayed without force, who believed without evidence. And when you no longer do those things, she has to accept the harshest truth of all. Her chapter in your story is over, and she doesn't get to be the plot twist. She's just a lesson in a book she no longer has the privilege to read, and that is when she truly realizes it's too late. Number 3, you owe her nothing. There's a deeply conditioned narrative that tells you it's noble to keep the door open, to offer grace to those who mistreated you, to believe in reconciliation just because love once existed. But not everything that once held meaning deserves a second chapter. And the brutal truth is that just because you loved her doesn't mean you owe her access to your healed version. Because too many men carry the guilt of having a good heart, confusing forgiveness with obligation, assuming that emotional closure must come through conversation or a final meeting, when in fact real closure is born in the decision to move forward without needing her understanding, without explaining your growth, without inviting the past to weigh down the future, And the moment you realize this, your world changes, because the truth is, she had her chance with a version of you that was still patient, still hopeful, still ready to bend just to hold things together. And that version paid the price with sleepless nights, emotional confusion, loss of focus, and in many cases, self-betrayal in the name of love. And now that you've rebuilt, recalibrated, rediscovered your boundaries, she doesn't get to waltz back in just because the door is still there. Because the man who truly grows knows that not every relationship deserves resurrection, especially those that required you to die inside just to keep it alive. Think about it. How many times did you sacrifice your principles, your time, your vision, just to avoid conflict or to prove you were serious about her? And how many times did those efforts go unnoticed? Worse, used against you as evidence of neediness or weakness. And now she's reaching out, not always directly, sometimes through friends, sometimes through passive messages, photos, subtle hints. Even nostalgia triggers that reference, your song or that place. But beneath all that is the quiet desire to see if you're still accessible, if the door she once slammed shut is still unlocked, if the man who gave so much is still willing to give again. And that's where you must stand firm, because while forgiveness is healing, access is earned. And ask yourself, what exactly do you owe her really? An explanation. She had all the explanations when she ignored your effort. A second chance. She had her first when she disrespected your boundaries. A conversation. She had your voice every day and still chose distance. You owe her nothing, not because you're bitter, but because you finally understand the value of your peace, your time, and your future. And men often think that closure means being the bigger person, offering one last moment of understanding. But the most powerful form of closure is building a life so fulfilling that you no longer need her validation, her apologies, or her presence to feel whole. And one of the greatest illusions is thinking that rejecting her return is cruel, when in truth, it's the most loving thing you can do for yourself. And in that refusal, there's wisdom, a kind that the Stoics spoke of often. Protect your mind from that which causes confusion, because anything that stirs constant emotional turbulence is not love, it's distraction, and you've got no room for distraction anymore. You're building now, not just physically but spiritually, financially, emotionally. You've found focus again, and it's sacred, and any reconnection that doesn't honor that is a step backward disguised as romance. So when she calls or texts or finds some way to inch back into your orbit, remember the cost of the first chapter. Remember the self-doubt, the frustration, the missed goals, the emotional limbo, and ask, is the comfort of her return worth the price of your growth? And the answer, if you're honest with yourself, is almost always no, because while she might have changed, while her words may sound sincere, while she may now see your worth, the real question isn't whether she changed, it's whether you did. And if you've truly changed, you'll know that the same person who caused you confusion is rarely the one who brings you clarity. And if she truly respected you, she wouldn't have waited until you were 30, distant to realize your value. She would have honored it when it was available, when it was raw and vulnerable and real. Because people don't forget kindness. They take it for granted when it's always there. And she assumed you would always be there, that the man who showed up every time would keep showing up no matter how she treated him. But you didn't just walk away. You outgrew the version of yourself that needed her recognition to feel whole, and that is the ultimate power. And now she's facing a new reality. You're not the same, and the man you've become isn't interested in building castles on old ruins, because you're not looking for repeats, you're looking for respect, and respect starts with the decisions you make now. So make the kind of decision your future self will thank you for, the kind that reflects a man who knows his time, his heart, his presence are priceless, and the world has taught you to measure your worth by her interest, her praise, her messages. But your worth isn't dictated by her recognition. It's dictated by your ability to walk away when your standards are no longer met. And that, more than anything, defines a man. Not how much love he gives, but how much disrespect he refuses to tolerate. And as painful as it might feel in the moment, rejecting what once felt like love is the gateway to real love. One rooted in mutual respect, shared growth, emotional security, and purpose. And that journey starts with one decision: to honor the man you've become, to protect the boundaries you've built, and to never again trade your peace for the comfort of the familiar, because what's familiar isn't always what's right. And your new life, the one that's waiting on the other side of this decision, is far more important than the old love that taught you what not to settle for. So remind yourself daily, she had her chance with the version of you that would have given everything. The man you are now isn't looking for redemption stories. He's writing new chapters with those who recognize value before it's gone. Number 4. Level up. So high, she can't reach you. The truth most men never hear loud enough is this: the pain she caused wasn't the punishment, it was the wake-up call. And if you stay stuck in the sting of her absence, you'll never feel the fire of your own potential, because the version of you who waited for her reply, who lost sleep wondering why you weren't enough, who lowered his voice just to keep peace in chaos, that version wasn't broken. He was misdirected, feeding a future that would have starved him anyway. And what you need to realize now is that your growth is not for her to see. It's for you to feel, because the mission you're on isn't about proving a point. It's about fulfilling a purpose. And no, leveling up isn't just about money or muscles or posting new watches and vacations for social media applause. It's about rebuilding the blueprint of your identity from the inside out so deeply that even the memory of who you used to be starts to feel distant, because she needs to become a lesson, not a motivation. And if you're still training just to get her attention, you're still imprisoned by her perception. But when your reasons become rooted in your own standard, in your hunger for legacy, in your unwillingness to let this life pass by unlived, that's when everything shifts. When you stop settling for average conversations, average energy, average circles, and start seeking out spaces that stretch you, voices that challenge you, mentors that don't flatter but sharpen, and you begin to track your progress like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Because a man who's idle becomes vulnerable, not just to women who waste his time, but to a world that rewards distraction over discipline. And the reason she can't reach you isn't because you blocked her or ghosted her, but because you're moving in a direction that requires too much of what she never learned to offer. Consistency, humility, self-awareness, and real partnership. And leveling up means walking into rooms where nobody knows your past, but everyone sees your future in how you carry yourself, in how you speak with intention, how your presence commands respect without demanding it, how your goals aren't screamed but pursued so quietly that they only hear you when the results speak. And the beauty of this process is that it doesn't require revenge. It requires vision. Vision for your body, not just to look good, but to feel like a warrior, agile, prepared, strong enough to lift not just weights but responsibilities. Vision for your finances, not to flex, but to build foundations where no one controls your time, where no woman can use access to you as leverage, because you've become self-sufficient, independent, dangerous in your ability to choose instead of beg. And when she sees you next, it won't be in a moment she expected. It won't be a coffee shop run-in or a late-night text she hoped you'd reply to. It'll be in the distance between your worlds, hers spinning in cycles of emotional chaos and missed chances, yours locked into a rhythm of progress that doesn't make room for regression. And this is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear, because clarity is the currency of high-value men, and the more focused you become, the more she fades. Not because you erase her, but because you're too busy becoming the man you were always meant to be. If you'd stopped chasing temporary validation and started chasing permanent alignment, and ask yourself, what would your life look like if every hour you spent trying to decode her mixed signals, trying to win her back, trying to heal in her presence, was redirected toward your mission, your body, your mind, your brand, your circle, your skills, your self-respect? That's not hypothetical, it's real. And when you finally make that switch, things happen faster than you expect. Your posture changes, your language sharpens, you outgrow gossip, you ignore bait, you turn down invitations not because you're antisocial, but because you've built a standard too sacred to waste on people who drain you. And now when you look back, you don't hate her, you don't want her back. You're simply thankful that she exited before you became too entangled, because now your life is wide open, your energy is magnetic, your mission is clear, and you are surrounded by people who match what you bring instead of resenting it, who see your ambition as a flame to add to, not water down. And the reason she can't reach you now isn't because you're gone. It's because you're glowing in a way she never expected. Quiet, consistent, powerful, and absolutely unreachable to the woman who couldn't see your light when it was hers to nurture. And as you keep climbing, you realize something deeper. This journey wasn't about her at all. It was about reclaiming your soul, your path, your potential, and nothing is more dangerous than a man who's healed, focused, and unwilling to compromise ever again. Not out of bitterness, but out of a deep respect for what it took to get here. You've been taught to suppress, to smile when you're hurting, to hold it all together while the world questions your masculinity the moment you show emotion. You've been expected to be the rock for everyone, yet when you needed someone, you were left alone. You've loved deeply and were discarded like a backup plan. You've shown up consistently only to be seen as disposable. Society praises the strength of men, but never speaks about the silent suffering behind that strength, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the weight of expectations, the loss of direction. You were never given the manual. The world told you to figure it out. But how do you figure it out when you're bleeding inside, when your confidence has been shattered, when you've lost yourself in a relationship that drained everything from you? That's exactly why I created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men. Not just a book, but a total mental shift. It's dropping very soon. This is the step-by-step guide every man deserves but was never given. It's built to help you reclaim your value, rewrite your standards, and rise as a man who no longer bends for what breaks him. Whether you're dealing with a breakup, trying to rebuild after betrayal, or finally ready to level up beyond anything she could ever reach, this is your answer. No more guessing, no more wandering in the dark. No more pouring into people who treat your love like an option. This is for the men who are done tolerating less, done staying stuck, and done wasting time. If you're serious about transforming your relationships, your self-worth, your life from this moment forward, type the blueprint in the comments and be one of the first in line to claim what's yours. If this message resonated with you, subscribe for more powerful truths, like the video to spread the message, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today.